Survival picture. Someone who just got paid on Friday and by Tuesday they're already checking their banking app with one eye closed, hoping the number didn't drop overnight. That's not broke, that's not lazy, that's level 1. And it's where most of the planet actually lives. Here's the thing nobody tells you about survival money. It's not a number, it's a rhythm. Every dollar has a name before it hits your account. Rent, groceries, that bill you forgot about. The money isn't really yours, it's just passing through you on the way to somewhere else. You're a toll booth, not a bank, and the weight of it, people underestimate this. At level 1, your brain runs background processes 24/7. How much gas is in the tank, whether the card'll go through. Scientists have actually measured this. Chronic financial stress drops your effective IQ by around 13 points. Not because you're dumber, because your brain's already doing math nobody can see. The trap is sneaky. At level 1, every solution the system offers is a hook. Payday loans, buy now, pay later, credit cards at 29%. They feel like lifelines, but they're future paychecks getting taxed by someone else. What actually gets you out is unsexy. A gap, even $50 a week that leaves your account the second payday hits, invisible, auto-moved. Doesn't matter the amount. Matters that the gap exists because it's proof to your own brain you can control the flow. And a better skill, not a second job, a higher rate. Welding, coding, trades, sales. Going from $18 an hour to $35. That's the lever, cutting lattes, isn't it? But surviving isn't the finish line, it's the first floor. And once you stop drowning, you notice something weird. The people a level up aren't smarter, they just have one thing you don't. Stability. Ever notice how the water only feels calm once you stop kicking? That's level 2. Stability isn't rich, it's just the moment the panic stops. At this level, your income finally beats expenses with something left over, and this is the big one, you've got an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of living costs in a high-yield savings account, earning 4 to 5% while doing nothing. That pile of cash is the single most underrated wealth builder in existence, and here's why. It's not about the money, it's about what the money lets you do or not do. When you have zero runway, every decision gets poisoned by urgency. Bad boss? Gotta stay. Car breaks down? Credit card it, and now you're paying 22% on a transmission for 3 years. But when you got 6 months sitting there, you can walk away from things. You can say no. That money isn't just sitting, it's actively buying you something most people don't have. Options. Now here's where people mess up. They hit stability, feel the relief, and inflate their lifestyle. New car payment, bigger apartment. 6 months later, they're back at level 1 with nicer stuff. This is lifestyle creep. Your raise didn't make you richer, it just made your treadmill faster. The move is brutal and simple. Lock your lifestyle. When income goes up, savings go up with it. Not spending. 10% raise? 80% of it gets automated out before your brain even sees it. Pay yourself first. Before rent, before anything. And look, stability feels like the destination when you're climbing out of level 1, but you're still trading hours for dollars. The minute you stop working, the flow stops. And the next level, that's where that starts to change. Security. Imagine waking up one morning, your alarm doesn't go off, and it genuinely doesn't matter. Missing a week doesn't sink you. Missing a month doesn't either. That's level 3. And it's the first level where money starts doing something strange. It starts working without you. Security is 6 to 12 months of expenses plus investments that are actually compounding. Index funds, retirement accounts, maybe a rental. You're not rich. You can't retire. But a piece of your life is running in the background whether you're awake or not. Here's where the math gets fun. The S&P 500 has historically returned about 10% a year, 7 after inflation. Got 50 grand invested? That's roughly $3,500 a year happening to you passively. Sounds tiny, but it's $3,500 you didn't trade an hour for. And the kicker, next year it's on the new total. The year after, more. This is compounding, and it's the closest thing to magic in finance. The mindset shift at level 3 is huge. At levels 1 and 2, you think in income. How much do I make? At level 3, you think in assets. How much do I own? You stop asking, what does it cost, and start asking, what does it produce? A 40,000 car produces nothing. 40,000 in an index fund produces thousands a year. Same money, totally different lives, 10 years out. Security's where most people stop climbing. Honestly, not the worst place to live. But it's a ceiling. Your money's still mostly tied to your job existing. Lose the income and the investments eventually drain, which is exactly the wall the next level breaks through. Independence. Here's a question that sounds simple but isn't. What would change about your life today if your job vanished tomorrow and you couldn't replace it for 2 years? If the answer's everything, you're below level 4. If the answer's honestly not much for a while, welcome to financial independence. This is the level where your passive income, dividends, interest, rentals, business income you don't actively run, covers your basic expenses, not your dream lifestyle, just the essentials. The rule of thumb is the 4% rule. Multiply your annual expenses by 25, and that's roughly the portfolio you need to cover them indefinitely. Spend $40,000 a year? Need $1 million? Sounds impossible until you run the math. Someone on an average income who saves aggressively into index funds from their 20s can hit this by 45, even earlier. It's not about salary. It's about savings rate and time. And here's the part that quietly changes everything. At level 4, you make different decisions, not because you're wiser, because the pressure's gone. You don't stay at the job that's slowly killing you. You don't bite your tongue. You don't take the project just for money. What you've got at this level is time, not hours in the day, sovereignty over your own life. Most people go their whole existence without ever having this, and they don't even know it's on the menu. But level 4 covers your baseline. It doesn't cover abundance, which is exactly what the next level takes off the table. Freedom. Picture this. You're at a cafe in some random city, laptop closed, no deadlines, and the waiter asks if you want the expensive wine. The answer isn't, let me check my budget. It's just yes, without flinching. That's level 5. Freedom is when your passive income doesn't just cover your needs, it comfortably covers your wants. Travel when you feel like it. Yes to the nicer hotel. Yes to the hobby that costs money. And the money keeps coming whether you open the laptop or not. At this level, something changes that's hard to describe until you see it. Your time stops being for sale. Every job offer, every client request, every favor gets filtered through a new question. Do I actually want this? Not, can I afford to say no? Do I want to say yes? And most things, for the first time, get a no. Not out of scarcity, out of taste. Financially, this usually looks like 2 to 5 million invested across diversified assets. Enough to fund a rich life without touching the principal. And because the principal keeps growing, the freedom compounds. You're getting wealthier year over year without doing a thing. Here's the trap, and almost everyone falls into it. Hedonic adaptation. The new lifestyle feels normal fast. The nice hotel becomes the baseline. Suddenly, yesterday's freedom feels like today's floor, and you start stretching for the next level for reasons that are more ego than need. The people who handle level 5 well lock in a lifestyle ceiling on purpose. They ask, what's enough? And write it down before they hit the number. Because after you hit it, the answer always drifts upward. And speaking of drift, the next level isn't about lifestyle at all. It's weirder, and honestly more dangerous. Wealth. Most people who say they want to be wealthy actually just want to be free. Real wealth is something else. And it's the level where money stops being about you. Level 6 is generational, the kind of capital where not only are you taken care of for life, your kids are, and their kids are. We're talking 10 million and up, invested so the principal grows faster than anyone can reasonably spend it. At 7% real return, 10 million throws off 700 grand a year. Spend 300, the other 400 compounds. That 10 turns into 20 in a decade, into 40 in another. The snowball becomes an avalanche. The mindset gets genuinely different. At levels 1 through 5, you're optimizing for yourself. At level 6, you think in decades and generations. You're not asking, what do I want this year? You're asking, what am I building that outlasts me? Foundations, endowed chairs, research that won't pay off for 20 years. Money stops being a personal asset and becomes an extension of your values into the future. But I'll be real with you. Level 6 has a dark side. The wealthier you get, the more money becomes a barrier. You stop knowing who's a real friend versus who's angling. Your kids grow up in a bubble. Your motivation gets weird because survival, the original fuel behind almost everything humans do, just isn't a factor anymore. A lot of people at this level quietly admit they were happier at level 5. Freedom had edges. Wealth doesn't, and edges are part of what makes life feel real. The ones who do. Level 6, well-built structure around it, purpose outside of money, projects they do for free. Because without that, the money just becomes a scoreboard, and scoreboards get boring fast. And then there's the last level, the one almost nobody reaches, and the ones who do usually don't look like what you'd expect. Legacy. Weird thought experiment. If you died tomorrow and every trace of your name vanished from the internet, how long until the world wouldn't know you'd existed? A month? A year? Most people, less than they'd like to admit. Level 7 is where that question has a different answer. Legacy wealth isn't just money, it's influence, institutions, ideas, systems that outlive you by decades. The Rockefellers, the Carnegies, the Buffetts, people whose names became buildings, foundations, libraries, whose capital doesn't just fund grandkids, it shapes how whole industries move. At this level, money's actually the least interesting part. The hard problem is deciding what to point it at. When you can fund anything, the bottleneck becomes judgment. What actually matters? What won't be done if you don't do it? Most level 7 people spend the last third of their life trying to answer that, and plenty get it wrong. They fund vanity projects, build statues to themselves. The ones who get it right focus on things that are underfunded, high leverage, and unglamorous: public health, scientific research, education in places nobody's paying attention to. And here's the strangest part, the thing nobody warns you about. Legacy isn't really about money, it's about whether anything you touch changed the direction of something bigger than you. Which means, and this is the uncomfortable truth, you don't need a billion to hit level 7. Teachers who shape generations hit it. Scientists whose papers rewire a field hit it. Writers whose ideas stick in people's heads 100 years later hit it. The money version of legacy is just one path. Maybe not even the most reliable one, so zoom all the way out. The real shift across these 7 levels isn't from broke to rich. It's from scarcity to sovereignty to significance. Level 1 is surviving. Level 4 is freedom. Level 7 is meaning. And the insane part, so the climb doesn't get easier as you go up. It gets lonelier, more philosophical, and the stakes of the wrong answer get bigger. Most people spend their whole life fighting for level 2 without knowing there's a whole staircase past it. The ones who know it's there and keep climbing end up somewhere most people don't even know exists. If this unlocks something, drop a follow. More of these coming. And tell me honestly in the comments which level are you actually on right now. Not where you want to be, where you are. I'm reading every reply.